Hi again. Thanks to all who watched my first video. I know it was kind of random and not really about anything. It was kind of vague. And I also realized that I did not really introduce myself at this point in time. I do have a fairly decent online presence already in the area that I live. Basically, like if I put something out on Facebook or Twitter, there's a pretty decent chance that a good amount of people will see it. So, but I really want to talk about these things, but I don't necessarily want to make them quite public just yet, which is why I have the name Peggy Joan, which is super original, I know, but I just started watching Mad Men, and it's so good. It's so good, and I like those characters, so that's why I chose the name. So you can just refer to me as that for now, I guess. So here I'm going to tell you the tale of two couples, both of which are very significant in my life. One is the story of my parents, and one of is the story of my husband's parents. So I say I grew up in a fundamentalist Christian household, which is kind of true, but not really, because my parents were divorced, and I lived with my mom. She was a single mother. She raised 3 kids, and she was kind of all over the place. We went to Baptist churches, we went to Pentecostal churches, we went to Messianic church for a while. We just kind of, Mom was just really trying to find a community, I think. I don't know, we kind of floated around. But my dad, however, he never went to any congregations because to him they were all apostate. You could never go anywhere without finding some problem with the church's theology. And like I said before, if someone disagreed with him on one verse, on one interpretation, then chances are that that place was a part of the Laodicean church, and you didn't want to be associated with that because they had started compromising on Christianity and things like that. So I have my mom, who's kind of floating around these churches, and my dad, who doesn't go to church at all. He stays home and he listens to the radio. He likes Dave Hunt. He likes John MacArthur. Yep, good times. So even though I lived with my mom and we went to various churches, I would still say my dad's hardcore theology ruled, because we would go over to his house every other weekend, and on Sundays we wouldn't go to church, but he would sit us down, me and my sister, and we would have a Bible study. And it would be like 2 hours long or something, and he would like hammer into us the fundamentals of Christianity, and he made sure we knew it inside and out. He made sure we knew his theology, and we did. So, backtrack to my parents when they get married. They knew each other for about a year, maybe less, and I guess things were okay. I think maybe they felt a bit of pressure that they should get married. I don't quite know, but anyways, they got married. And talking to them both now, they say that at the time of their marriage, they both knew that maybe it wasn't the best idea, but they felt like they couldn't get out of it, which is really too bad. A big thing that they had in common was outdoor things, biking, hiking, being outdoorsy, being athletic. That's kind of the glue that kept them together. And also they went to the same church, so they had that. That was about the only thing maybe they had in common, and it didn't quite work out. Like I said, my mom kind of, when she was raising us, she kind of floated around from church to church, and I think she floated around with different groups of friends while she was married to Dad, and Dad didn't really like that at all. He ended up thinking that she wasn't a Christian. And there's a verse in the Bible that says, don't be unequally yoked, which means if you're a Christian, don't marry a non-Christian. And my dad started guilt-tripping her terribly. And he wouldn't sleep with her. He would leave Bible verses on the table. This is what my mom said. He would leave Bible verses on the table saying, what's that verse about? The tree and the branches that don't produce fruit will be cast off. He would leave verses like that, very guilt-tripping, threatening verses, saying that she better change her ways, otherwise she was going to go to hell, and she was not a Christian. And I can just imagine, and this is just so awful. And for the longest time, my mom thought that she needed to be better. I think she agreed with him to some extent and was like, yes, I need to be a better Christian woman. I need to, if I'm just a better wife or a better something, then this will work out. I remember her saying that Proverbs 31? It's like the woman of Proverbs. It's a famous kind of chapter, and I don't know. It makes me so upset that my mom strives so hard to be this like absolute perfect woman, because she wasn't achieving that. She felt like the whatever was happening in their marriage was because of her. I'm sure she, of course, wasn't impressed with Dad, but a lot of it was she felt was her fault. So somehow they finally had me, and that preoccupied them for a little while, about 2 years, and then my mom decided she had enough, and she left my dad. So obviously, Dad wasn't too happy about this. He would make sure that we knew what our mother was doing wrong, and that our mother wasn't a Christian. And really, he turned us against her. And it was quite awful. My mom actually said, like, she had to get a lawyer to prevent Dad from, like, indoctrinating us and turning us against our mother, and that didn't really do anything, but just the fact that that had to be brought into the equation, like a lawyer saying, like, hey, like, don't tell your kids that your mom is going to hell. Like, you can't just say things like that. Mom was still going to Christian churches and things, but they weren't the Christian churches and things my dad thought she should be doing, and so she was a false Christian, and he made sure we knew that. Have you ever had Sir Perry's pear cider? It's really good. So fast forward, I'm 18 years old, and I meet this guy who is now my husband. But I really like him. We start hanging out, we start kind of seeing each other, and he's a Christian. He goes to a more moderate church. It's a Mennonite church, so it's not like super moderate, but it is definitely a big enough step for me that when I first went there, I was like, they're reading from the Message and not the King James Bible, and what is going on here? And I was a little bit skeptical, and I was like, you know what, alright, this guy's a nice guy, but I gotta reform him a little bit. Until I started getting to know him and getting to know his family, and they are the nicest family you would ever have met. I mean, people say no family's perfect, all families have their problems, and they do, but man, they are just the closest thing I have met to, like, the perfect family. Maybe that's because I came from, like, a really, really ridiculous, strange family, so my standards aren't that high, so they seem, like, amazing, but they actually are, and they're so kind, and they've had their own struggles as well, but they've come through it with such a loving attitude. And one thing that really struck me was that his dad, who's now my father-in-law, is a Christian. But his mother, now my mother-in-law, is not. And they've been married for over 25 years. And you go over for dinner at their place, and he is so kind towards her, and she loves him so much. You can just tell, like, they're just so sweet together, you know? But she only comes to church on, like, Christmas and I think Easter, kind of just as like a family thing, but she doesn't go to church every Sunday. He goes to church, he brought the kids to church, but she just never went. I'm sure that must have been an issue, a contentious issue at some point, but you can tell it just doesn't affect the way they live their lives and treat each other. He loves her because she's his wife, and that's what that's what you do. Like, it doesn't matter. So when I saw that, I was kind of shocked. I was pretty upset, actually, and I just started thinking back, and I was like, wow, that is so messed up. And that's when I started to realize that my dad, the way he lives his life as a Christian, is, I think, a terrible example of Christianity. I don't think it's what God had in mind at all. And when I realized that, it was quite shocking, because that's the way I had been living my life. I had been kind of emulating my father in the way I viewed my faith, and the way I treated other people. I actually stopped being friends with like one of my really good friends because she wasn't a Christian. And I was like, listen, like, we've been friends for a long time. Why are you still like not a Christian? Like, why do you, I don't know. I was like maybe 14 at the time. It was something I really regret now. And then I see these other Christians, and they don't act like that at all. And they're so loving and kind to everyone in their life, even if they don't always understand or agree with their decisions. They live out Christ's love to everyone. So this was about 4 years ago that I first started like seeing my boyfriend, and it was a really slow transition. Like, it didn't happen immediately, but I sort of started to mellow out, because my boyfriend is very non-confrontational, and he's very chill. He's very much like his parents. He likes to make people happy. Like, they're still Christian, still conservative, whatever, but they just live it very differently than what I'd been used to. So that was a major factor in me trying to reconfigure my faith and how I wanted to live. The problem was justifying that with what I knew was in the Bible and the kind of hard lines the Bible draws sometimes, and I had been raised to believe that people who weren't strict on these particular principles were, they were too weak to stand for anything. They were wusses and all those kind of derogatory words. And it just started to plant the seed of change within me. And I kind of thought about it, and like I said, I kind of mellowed out. But it wasn't until this past year that something happened, and it was a real catalyst to put those thoughts into action. So that's kind of where I am right now still, is trying to reconcile how I want to live with my faith and what the Bible says and how I view the Bible. A couple of things I've been looking at is Raised Right by Elisa Harris. That's been a really helpful book for me. Rachel Held Evans, her blog has been good to read, and I read Love Wins by Rob Bell, and I'm still not sure what I think about it, but even just the fact that I picked up the book and read it is a huge step for me, because a couple years ago I probably would have burned it or something like that. I don't know, like, I'm just really open to exploring new ideas. So that's my little story. I don't know if you like gained anything from that, but I just felt like I wanted to share it because it was a very important thing in my life. Maybe I should be talking to a therapist, but I don't know. I've kind of grown up with a stigma about therapy for my entire life, so that's been hard to overcome. But I mean, I think I'm mostly over that. They're just kind of expensive, and I don't know. Maybe once my husband starts working, because he's still in school right now, we don't have very much money, but maybe once we have more money, I'll actually finally get my ass into therapy, because I probably need it, so. But thank you for watching, and yeah, until next time, bye.